So a couple of days ago, I made a really fun build that's super strong with Warlock on Prismatic using the new exotic, the Mataiodoxia. And I wanted to take it into Strand and see if I could make a suspend build that revolved around it. And the results were pretty surprising. Some things are good, some things aren't so good, and it kind of showcases a hole in Strand when using this. And I'll explain a little bit more later on the video with the build, but let's talk about my unlimited suspend Warlock build. So here we have the Brood Weaver setup. We have Mindspun Invocation is our first aspect, which is basically consuming our grenade will have different effects. Because we're consuming our Shackle Grenade, it's going to allow us to suspend everything. Whenever we kill something, whenever we kill a normal enemy, it's going to be great for us. This is about 20 seconds or so. So as long as you get your grenade back and you consume it again, you'll be able to keep this loop going. Now, for the second aspect, I've gone with the Wanderer here because destroying a tangle creates a suspending burst after a short delay, and also threading final blows create a tangle. Tangles you throw also attach to targets and detonate into a suspending burst. This is kind of limited because tangles are on like an 11 or 12 second cooldown. And we won't be using the throwable aspect of this, but we will be destroying tangles a lot. So more suspends is just more things getting suspended around us. I have messed around with Weaver's Call, but ultimately I think I'm going to go with the Wanderer. We have Arcane Needle on, and that's normal, and then we also have the Healing Rift. Now for the Fragment setup, the two that are mandatory are Thread of Fury, which is damaging targets with a tangle, generates melee energy. We need this to get back our Arcane Needle. And also Thread of Continuity, which is Suspend, Unravel, and Sever effects are increased. You could also go with which one is it? Is it on this page? No, oh, that's it. Thread of Wisdom. Defeating a suspended target creates an orb of power. This is kind of okay as well, but I've gone for Thread of Generation here, and then also Thread of Warding, purely because whenever you pick up an orb of power, you're going to be able to get Woven Mail, which is good damage reduction. Thread of Generation is just helpful for getting our grenade back. If you want to swap this out and go for Thread of Wisdom, it's entirely up to you. Before we jump into the mods, it's important to note the weapon setup that we are using here. I have chosen to go with the Wishkeeper because it's going to be pretty good, and I use multi-threaded snare, which allows my traps to suspend more targets. This is good because whenever you get precision hits or final blows, it will give you Snare Weaver, which allows you to create a pattern on the ground which suspends targets. You also get a bonus damage against suspended targets, and you gain faster draw time for a short duration when you suspend a target from any source or damage a suspended target with this weapon. The problem that this weapon has is that it is kind of slow when you're trying to deal a whole bunch of damage to some other higher health target enemies. That's the reason why the Call is also going to be very good in this build. You do lose the Suspend from Wishkeeper, but with Weaver's Trance, the Call is fantastic. And I've also opted to go with Buried Bloodline for just extra Devour stuff. But ultimately, if you're using a Strand weapon in this main slot, it will feed into the rest of the build. So, yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about the build as a whole after we've gone through the mods and such. For the exotic, we're using the Mataiodoxia, which is a really good exotic. I'm actually really enjoying using this. This is more of a utility style exotic that can kind of fit into both Strand and Prismatic builds. Whenever you damage targets with an Arcane Needle, it will give you a suspending detonation. If you kill regular red bars, it'll be quite small. If you kill orange bars, it'll get a little bit bigger. And then if you hit 4 onto like a big health target, it will give a massive detonation, which will pull in a lot of enemies. Also, when you defeat suspended targets, you're going to get melee energy back, and also your Arcane Needles will break champion shield. So it's like really strong. It's like 3 or 4 effects all in one, and I do recommend that you go and pick this up because it's got a lot of utility. With the mods on the build, the setup that I'm going for will change depending on the weapons, but this is roughly the build I'm going with. I've got 2 Harmonic Siphons. You can drop the Void Siphon, go with maybe like a heavy ammo finder if you really want to. I am going with Impact Induction, which is causing damage with your powered melee, reduces your grenade. Momentum Transfer, causing damage with your grenade, reduces your melee cooldown. And then also you get class ability back whenever you use cause damage with your grenade, but you can also swap this out for other stuff. The reason why I'm not going with firepower or heavy-handed, is I'm not using those to generate my orbs, purely because the abilities that I have on Strand are a little bit weak in terms of killing higher health targets. It's not like a melee-focused build here. Chest piece, resistances as always. And then on your boots, I've got 1 Strand Weapon Surge, an Elemental Charge to give me back my armor charges a lot quicker, thanks to destroying Strand Tangles, and then a Recuperation, because this build is very squishy at times. Then on our Bond, we have Reaper for extra orb generation, time dilation, and outreach. So let's talk about the rest of the build and why this has some issues, because the only artifact mod you really need to worry about here is Threaded Blast. Likewise, if you get things with a kinetic, or you can get an extra strand here with Elemental Siphon, but the only real one you need is Threaded Blast. So the problem this build has is that it's quite squishy. It hasn't got a lot of health regeneration. You aren't able to pick up as many orbs as like you need to, and you can really see the stark difference between Prismatic and also this. But the upside of this is that you are able to suspend things pretty much on a whim, and I think with the right setup in a team composition, you would be able to suspend a whole lot of things and control a lot of areas, especially in higher level content, which will give your teammates like combinations in tandem. And the problem that the Wishkeeper has is that it just doesn't do as much damage as you need it to, so you need the extra Strand Surges to give it that little bit of an oomph. And it also has an issue where it takes a little bit too long for you to destroy tangles. Unless you fully pull the bow extended back, it can sometimes take 2 or 3 shots to destroy the tangle, and you need that for the Threaded Blast. The upside to it is that you're able to suspend a whole bunch of targets, but then also when you do destroy a tangle, you're able to suspend things even more. So it has some pros and cons. You can't just barrel in, you need to kind of pick your shots a lot of the time. But the other downside of this build is that it sucks in just open general play. And I mean this in the sense of a lot of enemies that you need to kill to generate that Snare Weaver will die from your teammates in strikes or in the main activities. So you kind of don't get the build rolling as much as you want to. If you're in a dedicated environment where things don't die as quickly, or you're playing solo, maybe in like a dungeon or something along those lines, then this will be a very good. It'll give you a lot of control, and I can see this in the future when we get like an overload bow or unstoppable bow being quite good alongside the suspend. Sadly, those are the pitfalls that this build runs into. I thought it'd be even better with the exotic chest piece on, and sadly it isn't. So that's a bit unfortunate, but I still wanted to make the build and bring it out for you guys anyway. So as always, if you've enjoyed these videos, leave a like on it, subscribe as always, and leave a comment down in the comment section of a build that you'd like to see on the channel in the near future. And as always, this has been Jimbo, and I'll see you guys next time.